From the Harbor Center in downtown Buffalo, it's the panel brought to you by Sport Check as Oilers TV winds up coverage of the 2016 Scouting Combine. Tom Gazzola alongside Jack Michaels and Bob Stauffer from the Oilers Radio Network. Guys, we'll start out with, we talked to quite a few players here, 114 of them here total, but we talked to roughly 20 or so. What are we learning about these young men as they start to approach the professional side of their career here?
Well, increasingly the Combine is a showcase for not only these players for what kind of physical shape they're in. I mean, certainly we see the grueling testing that's going on behind us as we speak as indicative of what they can do as athletes. But we've already seen that for the most part.
On the ice, of course.
Exactly. So what I think is most impressive about these young athletes is their interview skills and their polish. They are NHL ready in more ways than one. And I think the intellectual prowess that you get an insight to this weekend is just as impressive as anything else. And the other thing is the Combine is just, I mean, let's face it, it whets our appetite for what's to come. Sure. We don't know what the Oiler breakdown of picks looks like yet. It may be very different in the next 3 weeks. But what we do have is a pretty good idea of who the Oilers will be interested in taking at number 4 if form holds.
Okay, Bob, and speaking of that, what do you make of that scenario?
A couple things. I think that it's changed over the course of, say, the last month from when the lottery took place on April the 30th, I think.
What's changed?
The sentiment, I think there's a belief that maybe we had a separation before, guys, and we were looking at a top 3 before with the 2 Finnish players and obviously Austin Matthews.
Which would have put the pick more likely into play?
I think at that time, yes.
Right.
But I think what's happened here is, you know, Matthew Tkachuk is a winner. And he went out and he played hurt and and I think he elevated his stock. And the other thing is, I think that, Jack, you alluded to something in terms of the professionalism and the makeup. And what's happened here is the players are represented by agents and they help coach and teach these players. And the other thing is the amount of coverage they get, specifically the guys in junior.
Is it fair to say general opinion looks like maybe the Oilers aren't so keen on trading that pick? Now, with Tkachuk's stock rising, all of a sudden fans are looking at Puljujarvi, Tkachuk, and Dubois. And then should the Oilers trade down, if that were to happen, where would they be looking in terms of a prospect? What do we think right now?
Well, I think if form holds and the Edmonton Oilers pick at number 4, they're picking one of 2 players. That would be my guess, and Bob will follow up
Absolutely.
with what his thoughts are. But I'm thinking that it's either going to be Tkachuk or Puljujarvi, whether he's there or not. Now, a lot of people are thinking, well, Columbus, you know.
Finnish connection.
Exactly, but Jarmo Kekalainen has not necessarily just drafted a bunch of Finns since he's been in Columbus. Has he drafted one? I mean, but my point is he is an outside-the-box general manager. He's not necessarily just going to pick Puljujarvi because he's a Finn. He's going to pick him because of what he brings to the table. 200-foot game, big body, certainly looks like a mature kid. Adapting to the language, I mean, that's going to be a challenge for him moving forward. Yep. But certainly he's played against men over in Europe, so he arrives in the NHL as perhaps a more polished stone, if you will, than a guy like Matthew Tkachuk. But as Bob indicated, the reason Tkachuk is all of a sudden being mentioned as maybe a challenger at number 3 is he plays for and helps win the Memorial Cup for his club on half a leg. And coming through that process, I think, is a tremendous achievement for an 18-year-old.
Is Tkachuk NHL ready in your mind? Or what did you want to say?
Well, by his own admission, he's not NHL ready, but he says he's got an off-season to get to the point where he is. What I would say is, you know, the general consensus was the draft started with Edmonton at 4. You know, Elliot Friedman put out a couple of weeks ago, guys, that Columbus may entertain the thought process to trade down. It would not surprise me in the least if Logan Brown and Matthew Tkachuk were in Columbus at some point to meet with the Blue Jackets organization.
Okay, finally have to ask, whatever media isn't in San Jose for the Cup final right now is here in Buffalo. You guys have been walking around talking to people. Are we hearing anything in terms of rumors, anything juicy, guys, that we can share?
Well, I mean, Bob has alluded to one of the things that's kind of come up at this NHL Combine. But, again, I think the continuum of discussion. See, the other thing that happens, and Peter Chiarelli talked about it on yesterday's panel, is you've got a lot of senior managers here. And there's going to be a continuum of discussion leading in to the next 3 weeks. That's why, again, as much as this is a fun event, it's merely a prelude. And a lot could happen in the next 3 weeks. And we keep talking about how the Oilers have, 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. That may be completely different when we reconvene in this very same city 3 weeks from today.
If the Oilers do trade down, I don't see them trading down much past 7 or 8. And I do think it will include automatically a second-round pick coming.
Who does that bring into play if they do trade down to 7 or 8?
Well, now we're talking the range of defensemen. Like, for me, I think the Oilers probably have, Dubois and Sergachev roughly in that same range, right?
Is Chychrun still there, or is he lingering?
He's certainly lingering as well. And I do not have Juha-Levi in the same. Personally, I see Chychrun as having a little bit of separation from Juha-Levi. So we'll wait and see. The other thing is how this is set up here. The fact that the players all were interviewed in various suites in Buffalo's building here, that lends itself to more conversations amongst the managers, because they're like within 7 feet of one another.
It's like running a gauntlet.
But it wasn't like that before. And that's why this event works so well here in Buffalo.
I was going to say, I have one lock of the week, and that is we're going to be coming back to the NHL Combine next year and the year after that. I would be shocked if the NHL in Buffalo don't come to another 2-year deal. The Combine works very well here.
A great setup here at the Harbor Center and First Niagara Center. Guys, as always, thank you for your help this weekend covering on Oilers TV. Of course, we've got you guys coming up in the mock draft in a couple of weeks, so all your draft coverage here on Oilers TV coming up. Keep it locked here on Oilers TV. Signing off from Buffalo, Tom Gazzola for Jack Michaels and Bob Stauffer.